Okie dokie. Hello, everyone. Welcome all. Welcome, everyone. New and old. Nobody's really watching right now, but that is fine. I am talking to the people in post who are watching this over on my YouTube channel. Because if you don't know, I stream on Twitch and then upload all the archives to YouTube. So, with that introduction being said, let's just get right back into it. Mask of the Plague Doctor by Peter Parrish, Chapter 4. Her Mayoral Excellency. Alice and Ayoko are waiting for you in the sanctuary courtyard. An early morning frost still lingers on shadowed patches of grass, coating the soles of your boots with moisture. You tilt your mask up and bite into the chunk of bread that constitutes your meager breakfast. It feels stale and heavy, as if the dough were awash with mud and pebbles. That bread really works the jaw, Ayoko says, spotting your expression. But we'll be glad of it when the food starts running out. Or if this well needs any repairs. Alice adds, patting the stonework. Ayoko scoffs and starts cranking the shaft to raise the bucket. Since we're all present, he says, the source of this plague eludes us, and the disease seems to defy known treatment. With those undesirable truths in mind, I believe our most immediate task, our most viable, really, is to curb the rate of infection. Your colleague pauses to splash some well water over his face. The abbot has made his position about burial clear, but we may be able to impress the importance of burning the bodies on those who labor at the cemetery. Wherever our own sympathies lie, it is the safest choice. I'll remain at the sanctuary today, Alice says. Somebody ought to keep the patients under observation and try to keep Placet Quellum. Placket. I think it's Placket. Somebody wants to wrangle a key to the sanctuary archives, you mean? Ayoko remarks, ignoring the gesture he receives in response. Jack the Ripper, you're welcome to accompany me, though if you put any stock in the talk of miraculous marketplace cures, you could pursue that instead. I've also collected a number of urine vials from sanctuary patients if... Before I decide, I have a letter to deliver. You say, cutting him off. What's so important that you need to wear the messenger's mantle all of a sudden? Ayoko asked. Relay your encounter with Duncan. What happened? Why'd that do that? Sorry. You describe the encounter with Duncan and the guild members' request that you find his aunt. Ayoko listens, recognition crossing his face as you relate what he told you about Deoda. I've seen her in the sanctuary hall, he says, I'll point her out. The two of you cross the grass towards the elaborate double doors of the hall. Ayoko lifts and releases the door knocker 3 times, just as you saw the abbot do. After a moment's pause, the door swings ajar, and you head inside. The pungent warmth of the sanctuary hall greets you once again. A few patients raise their heads in your direction. Others pace the floor, jabbering to themselves and picking at their skin. A malign odor of sickness floats on the air. You take a long look at the suffering before you, and resolve to do everything you can to help these people. That's her. Ayako taps your arm, shaking you from your thoughts. He points to the corner of the hall where you see a lady of middle age with short red hair, no more than 5 feet in height. Introduce yourself to Dioda. Dioda, you inquire, taking a seat on a pew across from hers. She looks up and stares beyond you, her eyes depleted by pain and fatigue. After a spell, she seems to see her mask. Oh, that's quite a sight. I used to know a story about a crow. Now, how did it go? Dioda trails off. You wait for a short while, but the thread appears to have come unspooled. Dioda, I have a letter here from Duncan. Your nephew? You say, lifting your mask and producing the parchment. She smiles. Duncan... I have a nephew named Duncan. He's a big lad. You hand her the paper. She gazes at it for some time. You see her mouth move, forming silent words. She passes it back, her hands shaking in the manner of somebody twice her years. Since I've been here, my concentration... I see the shapes, but please read this for me. You nod and begin to read. Dear Aunt D, I'm sorry I haven't been able to visit. Alviva says I'm the best at making sure nobody gets in the tannery. Hold on. What up, Crack? How's it going? Let me try to remember his voice. She helps me with my writing, just like you used to. I really want you to get better. Then we can eat gingerbread at the market again. I'd like that. Love, Duncan. A tear rolls out from Dioda's exhausted eyes. She puts her head in her hands. The words come out stilted and muffled. Such good boys, Duncan and Domhnall. We'd fetch gingerbread when there was little extra to trade, so long ago now. You begin to stand, choosing to leave Dioda with her memories. As you rise, she lowers her hands from her face. Thank you, she says. The letter. May I keep it? You hand Dioda the ragged parchment for a second time. She leans in as close as she's able. You're a kind soul, she says. I don't remember much these days, but I do recall this. Her voice is low, but possessed of a new clarity. Cecily Lane, the corner house, loose window. I have a stash of beets and yams under the door. Under the floor, I mean. Get Duncan to help you. He's a strapping boy, my nephew. You give her thanks, unsure if these details can be accurate, but resolving to send someone to investigate. She touches her palm to the parchment, her weary smile adorned with sadness. Return to Ayoko. All done? Ayoko asks, dusting off some muck off his robes. So what's it to be? I think it would probably be best if I head to the cemetery with you, Ayoko. Then, if you're all set, we can depart, he says, adjusting the boar mask over his face. Head out with Ayoko. This way, Ayoko says, leading you out of the courtyard and through an unfamiliar section of the building. You follow your colleague to a small hatch-like door, an exit set quite apart from the tall archways and decorative entrances found elsewhere in the sanctuary. Stepping through, you find yourself in a tight alleyway. A compact man with broad shoulders is hauling the second of a pair of corpses onto a robust wooden cart. Sorry. This is why I need to play this game, because I need to learn how to read. And I think the story is really interesting. So it helps. I don't like reading. But this is nice. Morning, Orko, he says. Mind giving me a hand? Just 2 today, your colleague asks. Spend the week with me, you'll see plenty more, the man replies. Hey, must have been a quiet night, just the 2. Ayoko squeezes around the side of the cart and takes up position at the body's legs. He tugs on the hems of each of his gloves in turn, making sure they remain secure on his hands. Then, with much exertion, the 2 men manage to drag and pull the corpse into position. Not sure how you do this on your own, Walter, he says, leaning on the cart's wheels. Boundless enthusiasm for the job, he deadpans, brushing a sweat-flattened strand of hair from his face. Walter takes hold of the cart's sturdy handles. With a further grunt of effort, he lifts it and begins to wheel the contraption out of the alleyway. Ayoko follows close at hand. Well, he says, turning to you, you coming? Walter can get us inside the cemetery, no questions asked. We're traveling in style, I see. I like this one. Yes. Ayoko seems taken aback by your enthusiasm. You realize we're not traveling in the cart? Oh, you reply. Then this is a fine chance to stretch our legs and see more of the town. Your colleague shakes his head, unable to quite comprehend your boundless optimism. Travel alongside the cart. Droplets of rain draw an infrequent pattern from the Thornback Hollow rooftops as you trudge your way south towards the cemetery. The uneven roadways seem to provide little obstacles to Walter, who heaves the cart ahead of him as if guiding it over a soft silk. You see the bodies jump as they lurch over another pothole. One wheel squeaks out a mournful rhythm. The breeze turns, pushing a cloud of corpse fumes downwind. Your hand instinctively goes to the mouth of your mask as you splutter your way out of the foul current. Ayoko soldiers on unaffected. He spots you struggling and taps the boar snout. Space inside for crushed mint. Saw me through plenty of battlefield surgeries, so now it's a habit. Keeps the miasmas at bay. You're about to ask Walter for his secret, but it seems he's prepared for this question. Lived through the pox when I was a child, he says. Lost my sense of smell. He looks over at you. That's what you were planning to ask, right? Comes in handy now, of course. You ponder whether your own crow mask might have room for a scent barrier, and the herbal options at your disposal. Rose petals, perhaps, or some simple vinegar soak. Your musings are cut short by the cart wheels falling silent. Walter is paused by the entrance to a narrow side street. He looks about himself. Right. Got another pickup here, he says. Need any help? Ayoko asks. Oop, got the wrong one. Walter stalls for a second, suddenly unsure. No, this should be quick. He turns down the lane and disappears from view. You hear the squeak of the cart wheel start to fade, then cease. Wait for his return. Ayoko folds his arms and starts to pace. Rain patters off his robes. Does this seem strange to you? He asks. I spoke with Walter yesterday, and he agreed to accompany to the cemetery. He said he had 2 bodies. Nothing about a third. Maybe you heard about this death after you talked, you offer. Maybe. Ayoko taps his foot. He peers down the street. No. No, something's wrong. We need to find out what. Come on. Without waiting for your opinion, he sets off with a rapid stride. As you crest the corner of the lane, you see the cart. It's surrounded by a gaggle of barefooted children, clad in tattered sackcloth. Sorry. One of them sees you approach and gives a shout. They scatter, dispersing like a disrupted cloud of bees. Walter gives you a sheepish greeting. Didn't need to come. I was almost done. Made a mistake. Nobody here after all. Walter, who are those children, you ask? What children? Walter, come on now. He sighs and waves his hand over the corpses. I let 'em take scraps of the clothing off the bodies. They trade 'em for food with the needleworkers. Walter sees the look on your faces. I know what you're going to say, but please, they have nothing. I explained the serious medical drawbacks to his kindness. That would probably be the better one, but let me check the other ones. I make use of the corpses for an anatomical demonstration of his folly. Jesus. I intimidate him into ending this dangerous practice. I offer to donate some of our own supplies to the urchins. I think this will probably be better. Walter's eyes light up. It looks like he wants to embrace Ayoko, but then thinks better of it. Oh, this is a day of fortune, he says. If the urchins have a place to be fed at the sanctuary, I can rest easy. He starts to whistle a tune as he takes hold of the cart's handles, bracing against the weight. He hoists it up and starts to push. His melody lilts over the mournful squeaks of the cart wheels as you follow him down the street. Head onward to the cemetery. You pass through an old quarter of town where the crooked architecture shows signs of wear from weather and nature alike. Moss crawls up the sides of the wooden panels, and rot has set in on many of the dwellings. The few citizens you see outside scatter at the sound of the corpse cart. Though the rain has ceased, the dirt tracks you now walk are sticky with mud. Walter grunts harder now, keeping the wheels in motion. Ahead you see the rise of a rounded hillock, peppered with graves. Surrounding it, a low stone wall, worn and overgrown by thickets and thorn bushes. The pathway leads you to a simple gate fashioned from bronze. A small bell hangs from the exterior. 5 times, says Walter, breathing hard and gesturing with his eyebrows. Short rings. Ayoko steps up to the gate and follows his instructions. After a brief wait, a man carrying a shovel appears from over the rise. He stands on his toes, peering into the cart. 2 more. Afraid so, says Walter. All the same to me, the man replies with a slight shrug. He gives you and Ayoko a cursory look. Those ones with you. Walter nods. The man digs his shovel into the earth, leaving it standing as he pulls out a ring of keys and unlocks the gate. Right. In you go, then. On your usual place. Boss is up there somewhere. Crest the hillock. The incline is shallow but demanding enough that Walter has to sweat and swear his way up the hill. As you reach the crest, you realize you can hear the waters of the Thornback River. In the distance, the southeastern portion of the town prolongs its imprisoning embrace. Grave markers pierce the scrub grass. A small building with a squat tower stands amid the stones. The wind picks up, bending the green stems around you. Walter veers his squeaking cart off the marked path away from the building. You follow him to a ditch, dug shallow in the hillside. With barely a thought, he hoists the wagon handles high, tipping it at a sharp diagonal and sending the corpses rolling down into the hole below. He lets the cart drop and begins massaging his left arm. You take a couple of short footsteps closer to the edge of the ditch, close enough to glimpse the tangle of limbs and torsos, discarded like fish guts into the damp earth. Ayoko leans over and a grimace on his face. Never get used to that sight, he says, his throat dry. Nor should anyone. Then help us deal with it, the voice comes from above. You turn to see the outline of a woman standing on the ridge, a shovel across her shoulder like a pike. She makes her way down to meet you, wind catching in her short, dark hair. Well met, doctors. My name is Placentia. What? What? Placentia? I'm not gonna make any comments about that. The shovel is swung off her shoulder and pushed into the ground. Hello, Walter. Walter nods back. Grave master. Ayoko clears his throat. We're here to... You want us to start burning the bodies, Placentia says. And I'd be delighted to aid you. We have too many corpses and not enough labor to bury them, nor the space most likely. Then let's get started, you say. Placentia sucks air through her teeth. Not so fast. See, the abbot still has sway here. I like my job, so what I'm going to tell him when he sees smoke rising on the horizon. What am I going to tell him? Said it with current policy. Does this irritating treat you to preach forgiveness? Be polite and tell him the truth. He's a good man, yes. The abbot? I kind of feel like the conversations between the abbot and the other guy, the other lady, were kind of like, he's just trying to sympathize with her or whatever. So I think he understands the situation. But I don't know if this is going to be a good decision for him to make. So I think I'll stick with this one. Say we forced you to do it. Said it with crown policy. It is crown policy, Ayoko adds. Placentia laughs. Is this part of the theater, or are you actually trying to coerce me? Does it matter? You ask with a half shrug. Well, she says, Crown law is technically in effect during the quarantine. I have the legal right to light the pyres. Question is, will that be right upheld? Will that right be upheld? We'll back you, Ayoko says without hesitation. The mayor too, most likely. Placentia drums her fingers on the shaft of her shovel. That should serve. She casts her eyes over the ditch. Very well. I shall begin at once. Watch the bodies burn. Achievement, the pyre. Convince the grave master to start burning bodies. Good. Nice. Flames lick from the pit, consuming crackling brushwood and charred bones alike. You watch a pair of sparks pirouette their way to the edge of your boot, fizzle, and then die. Thick smoke rises from the pyre, carried away to the south by surging gusts of wind. Would anybody like to say some words? Placentia asks. You look to one another, unsure who carries greatest authority in these circumstances, or whether that even matters. Ayoko unfolds his arms, steps forward, and lifts his mask. Death is ugly, he begins. Yet, burial can be serene. It can bring dignity. He pauses, reaching internally for the right words. Those who burn before us have been denied that dignity, but through this act of sacrifice, others may yet survive. He bows his head. They have our gratitude, and the gratitude of those who may walk in their place. Sage save a soul, Walter intones, watching from beside his cart. The four of you stand in silence as the clouds are pushed across the sky. Time glides by, measured only by the waning heat of the pyre. You bid farewell to Placentia and Walter, then accompany Ayoko back to the quiet hillock. There's a rustling in the bushes that encircle the cemetery. A dark red bird, evidently furious at your arrival, bursts from the foliage. You smile as you watch it take flight, buoyed by the currents of the wind. Jack the Ripper, I need to thank you. What's up, my dude? I straight up don't even want to talk because you sounding sooth as fuck. Thanks, man. I hope you're doing all right, Fuzzy. I'm just reading this. This whole thing, reading this whole story has been pretty fun, actually. Doing it chapter by chapter. It usually lasts about an hour for each chapter, so I mean, so far I've only been through like 3, but even still, it's been a very interesting story to read. Jack the Ripper, I need to thank you, Ayoko asks as he holds open the cemetery gate. Without you, I'm not sure I could have seen this task through. At your backs, the orange glow of the pyre illuminates the hilltop. Travel back to the sanctuary. As you near the sanctuary archway, you see Alice in discussion with a second figure. You're approaching from behind, but the dark blue attire and powerful frame leave you in a little doubt. It is the militia captain who requisitioned your supplies. Tonight, you catch her saying, and you'd better be there, no excuses. Alice spots your arrival, holding up a piece of gold-trimmed parchment. Freda here has extended us an invitation, she calls, to dine with. Let's see here. Alice adopts a haughty tone. Her Mayoral Excellency, Madam Sybil Blake. Watch your tongue, physician, Frida says, glowering in Alice's direction. Mayor Blake demands respectful company for the evening, and I do mean demands. I'd be honored and humbled to attend. Just so you know, my attendance will be under duress. Sounds like a splendid opportunity for us to meet somebody new, or, oh god, another authority meddling in our investigation. I don't want to be a little rude, but I mean... I guess I'll go with this one. It sounds like a splendid opportunity for us to meet someone new. Next. There you go, a nice positive attitude, Frida asks, looks at Alice and gestures towards you. Follow that lead and your evening will be truly magical. She turns away, striding off towards the west of the town. I think I had a different voice for her. I forget. I'll probably do it later. Suppose we ought to clean ourselves up, Ayoko says, leaning against the archway for support. Before we do that, Alice replies, how do you fare at the cemetery? Ayoko points to a thin plume of smoke still visible to the southeast. Prepare for the dinner party. I can't keep track of the voices, but they really set a scene. Thank you. I try my best. With your plague doctor's robes as clean as they are likely to get, the 3 of you set forth for the mayor's manor. You head west, back down the trail you walked on your first night in Thornback Hollow. As the afternoon skies begin to dim, you find yourself at the foot of the barrow. A winding stepped pathway curls from the main thoroughfare up into the town's aristocratic dwellings, elevated well above the hoi polley. What's a hoi polley? Partway through your ascent, I'm so sorry. Let me just try to get in the right mindset for reading again. I just completely lost it. Partway through your ascent, as the carved stone steps to emerge into a gentle rising... Why am I having so much issue? Gently rising cobblestone walkway. Alice points at something. There, I saw it again. You follow her gaze and notice that the hillside to your left is speckled with holes. A long-eared rabbit pops its head out into the air, sniffs, and vanishes back inside. Half the town is going hungry. How do they keep these creatures from being poached? Ayako muses aloud. Appears they have an armed escort, Alice replies, motioning farther up the hill to the outline of a militia bowman. There too, she adds, pointing to another sentry, stationed lower down. And wait, a third figure, lacking the distinctive attire of the mayor's militia, is approaching you. He wears a hooded garment that hangs to just beneath his knees. As he nears, you see an affable expression on his soft, round face. He gives you a wave. Well met, doctors. My name is Richard Cogg. I'm the steward of these warrens. He glances around, light perspiration on his brow. You realize that the smile he wears sits beneath anxious eyes. He tugs at his sleeves. I notice your interest in my animals. Would you like to meet my rabbits? The strange tone of that sentence gives you pause. He continues to pull something from his sleeve. A hint of color emerges. Bright red, a gilt sash. Richard gestures to it with his eyes. Does one of your rabbits walk with a cane by any chance? Shh, Richard hisses. Stop talking and follow me. He darts his eyes around, but the militia are too far away and appear uninterested. What exactly is happening? Ayoko asks. It would appear we're deterring in order to revisit a recent acquaintance, Alice says. Watch your step, Richard warns. I've seen many an ankle turned by these boughs. Enter Richard's abode. Alviva Frith stands behind a small table. Her left leg raises and supported on a nearby chair. Her cane lies across her lap. There's a faint impression of a smile as she sees you enter, and she thanks Richard as he returns her sash. I apologize for the clandestine nature of this reunion, but when I heard you were visiting our beloved mayor, I had to bend your ear. She holds her gaze on Ayoko's boar mask. You, with the tusks, we've not met. Ayoko tie surgeon, he says, lifting his mask to reply. Ah, Alviva says, waving a finger in his direction. Now you look like a man who would still carry a fleam. Ayoko hesitates. Ah, Jesus fucking Christ, what the fuck was that? What just happened? There was a noise. I got scared. Thank you, Fuzzy. That is a little too generous of you. But I appreciate it anyways. Where the heck was I? Okay. Ayoko hesitates from the corner of your eye. You don't need to worry about doing that. It's probably going to be tough financially for a good while in these times. So it's best to just keep your money, Try not to, use it on me. From the corner of your eye, you see Alice shift her weight in annoyance. Alviva clears the topic with a wave of her hand. I'm sorry, she says. This is not the moment for old Gibbs. Richard appears from an adjoining room with a plate of oat cakes. A lean white rabbit with patches of brown around its cheek lollops beside him. You bite into an oat cake. Oat. It feels brittle, dry, and suspiciously lacking in oats. What? How can it be an oat cake if there's not really much oats? Whatever the hell the other substance is, it might be named after that. I've been observing you since you searched the tannery, Alviva says. You appear committed in your efforts to eradicating the walking death, but I am here to urge you that this alone will not save our town. Even if the disease is removed, Mayor Blake will remain in power. The citizens of Thornback Hollow will remain in poverty, their material needs unmet by an uncaring realm. Our task is to understand and cure this plague, Alice says. You ask us to also turn against the crown? You speak as if such actions would be unthinkable. But what? Alviva asks, leaning forward across the table. Does this crown offer people such as you? But what does this crown offer people such as you? Sorry. I should learn to read properly. Baron Moreland has promised me a recommendation to his fellowship of royal physicians. There is that. I guess I could just tell her the truth, or of what exactly he offered. By and large, the opportunity to do things in exchange for not being killed. Nothing yet. It uses authority to coerce us into action. With crown backing, I can act with near impunity. The authority to aid people through the practice of medicine. I like this one. The authority to aid people through the practice of medicine. And how far have you found this authority stretches in Thornback Hollow, Alviva asks. You follow a noble calling, but the crown abuses your passion. You're tossed into these cauldrons of suffering, and asked to perform the acts of a deity. If you perish, you're expendable. It's our duty to, Alice begins to say, duty? Alviva laughs. Just another word for having no say in the matter. All right, Ioka says. Speak your piece. Plainly put, Thornback Hollow is on the brink of chaos, Alviva says. Those going hungry will soon be starving. You've already witnessed the unrest. It will get worse. Without somebody to channel the anger, it will be unleashed on the least deserving. She picks up her cane, using it for emphasis. But this dissatisfaction also creates a unique opportunity. If it can be turned against our rulers, we may yet liberate the town. Liberate it to what end? Ioko scoffs. There's an army at the gates and plague inside the walls. Do you plan to govern our desolation? I don't plan to govern anything. That would be a role of a council of labor, Alviva retorts. Now you speak of the Baron's army. I see a handful of peasants ripped from their homes and eager to return. They'll have little stomach for a fight against the town in full revolt. She points the end of the cane at the three of you. The plague I shall leave in your able hands. If you fail, we are all doomed. This talk will be for naught. Richard's rabbit hops up onto the table. Alviva regards it with interest. Succeed, however, and we have a chance to organize and distribute power for the people. No more will we break our backs sending timber to the crown, only to see it roll back down our streets as machines of war. No more will plunder from those wars enrich the mayor and flow back into the imperial capital. No more will we bow to monsters who imprison us without cause, whose wealth and birthright makes them our betters. She strikes the table with her cane, sending a rabbit scurrying under a nearby chair. I foresee a better future. Will you help shape it? I cannot commit to this unless I know you're backed by the deities. Really? I don't know about that one. That's not really something I would do. This is treason. I'll have no part of it. Rather than answer, I opt to coax the rabbit out from under the chair. Yes. I don't like conflict. Rather than answer, I opt to coax the rabbit out from under the chair. Achievement too cute to ignore. Pet a rabbit instead of answering Alviva. You remain silent, watching the white rabbit twitch its nose at you from underneath the chair. Using a scattering of crumbs from your oatcake, you manage to coax it closer to your hand. The fur feels soft at your fingertips as you stroke the animal. I understand your reticence, Alviva says. She pulls her stiff leg to the floor and uses the cane to stand. You shall hear from me again. Perhaps by then our interests will align. Richard smiles as you continue to indulge the rabbit with soft pats and scratches. Richard, Alviva says, nodding to him on her way to the door. My thanks for hosting this gathering. Apologies for startling one of your charges. You're always welcome, Miss Frith, he replies. Alviva, no need for any titles here. Sorry, Alviva. She straightens her red sash at the doorway. Don't give my love to the mayor, she says. You while away some more time at Richard's table, making sure you aren't all seen leaving together. Onward to Mayor's Manor. The hill's flat summit has been turned into an immaculate circular lawn. A belated sun has shown itself, and the warmth of the mid-afternoon brings a relaxed air. Up here, the people make no effort to conceal themselves, to the players of a hoop and stick game unfolding on the green. Your masked curiosities. Nothing more. One of the finely dressed attendants waves a silken garment in your direction. Their partner nudges them, and they both collapse into fits of laughter. In this privileged area, the walking death feels like a distant concern. Around the outskirts of the lawn sit a semicircle of manor dwellings. Stonework dominates the construction of every building, in stark contrast to wooden structures prevalent in the rest of Thornback Hollow. Intricate window trimmings, mock parapets, and decorative roofing patterns reflect the lavish attention paid to the design of these homes. Profitable role, this trade route administration, Ayoko says, leaning back to get a better view of some carved gargoyles perched atop a nearby spire. Amid the opulent dwellings, one mansion stands above the rest. A grand entrance awning sits behind a mosaic of colored stones, depicting a pale flower rising from a lake. The building stands rigid, its broad back to the western cliffs. An undertaking of expert stone mastery and ostentatious wealth. The three of you cross the mosaic and stand before a door with striking iron hinges, each one a floret-covered stem curling across this length of the wood. You look at your colleagues, then knock hard with the flat of your fist. Footsteps approach, followed by the scraping of several locks. The door swings open, revealing a wrinkled man in servant's garb. He stands aside, allowing you to pass. I feel awed by this expression of the mayor's wealth. My mind is sickened by the opulence of display. I give the servant a friendly nod as enter. I reward the servant with a silent stare. That's probably me. I'd probably fucking just stare at them. Just awkwardly. I wouldn't even pay attention to it. I'll just fucking stare at them. Despite your lingering gaze, the man stares straight ahead as if neither of you nor the mask were ever there. Somewhat impressed at his discipline, you walk on, stepping into a palatial hallway. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it right. Bold tapestries cover the walls, and a curved stairway leads up to unseen rooms above you. Overhead, a long balcony stretches around three sides of the room, forming an upper gallery. A woman in a long silver gown emerges at the railing, her gray hair held up in place by a complicated array of shimmering strands. Jewelry adorns her neck. Our guests have arrived. Come along, Erwin. She addresses a young man of pale complexion. His black outfit is embellished with puffed sleeves and white ruffled cuffs. Upon seeing you, the woman puts a hand on her cheek. Goodness, this will not do at all, she exclaims, the line on her face hardening in disapproval. Those wretched robes, ghastly masks. Is there mud on my mosaic? Aylwin, escort the doctors to our guest wing at once. One simply cannot share a dining table with such a frightful sight. The boy descends the stairs in silence and motions for you to follow him. A sharp popping sound makes you reach for the back of your neck. Your mind circles. pulled by unseen currents. You hear a single word. Redeemer. You blink as the voice fades. The boy is still motioning. No, boots off, comes the cry from upstairs. The three of you pull off your filth-encrusted footwear and abandon them by the doorway. As you leave with your new guide, you see a second servant dash out, scoop the boots up, and toss them outside. Follow Aelwyn's lead. You're shown down a corridor and into a room with a curtained four-poster bed. The curtains are drawn back, presenting white sheets and a considerable pile of stitched cushions. Portraits with unfamiliar faces hang on one of the walls, and a set of windows casts light across a huge wardrobe. You'll find clothes in there, Alwyn says, his voice soft. Up close, you are surprised to see he appears almost a man in age, yet retains the manner and dress of a younger boy. Please choose something that Mother will find agreeable. I'll just be outside so I can escort you back. Should I not bathe first, you ask? Mother does not wish... He hesitates for a moment. She does not wish for you to befoul the manor bathroom. Jesus. But the clothes which we choose. The boy looks at himself. Sorry, hold on. The boy looks about himself, uttering a reply so soft you cannot be certain you've heard it right. They will be burned when you leave. Jesus. Before you can respond further, Aelwyn has ducked out, no doubt to show Ioko and Alice two rooms of their own. You glance back at the bed, suddenly feeling the weight of the past 2 days. Perhaps just a short nap. No. You need to dress for dinner. You open the wardrobe and consider your options. Several pieces of clothing look as if they'll fit. Choose a bright, cheerful tunic patterned in yellow red? No. The black attire conveys my inner hired assassin. Yes. I just want to see the rest of them. At last a chance to wear the fine silks and fur cloaks I deserve. No, I'm good on that. I'll just wear these clean, plain robes. I'm still one of the people. I want something to match my mask, which is definitely staying on. I think I'll... black attire... I don't know. It's either black attire or something to match my mask. I think a black attire might be definitely a choice I would go with. I don't want to be kicked out, so I guess I'm going to have to choose something else. Alright. Black attire. You debate leaving your waxed robes on the bed, risking some of the dirt and dust staining the blankets. Instead, you opt to drape them over Instead, you opt to drape them over a low bedside table, retaining a couple of the medicinal pouches to conceal about your person, just in case. Taking your crow mask in hand, you give it a lingering glance before placing it atop the robes. At this time, you rarely had cause to leave it anywhere beyond your reach. You feel a tickle of unease as you squeeze on some semi-appropriate shoes, then head out. Oh good, you're done, says Aelwyn, awaiting as promised in the corridor. Farther down, you see Ioko shifting around inside a forester's yurkin. No matter his posture, it sits slightly too tight. He notices you looking and stops fidgeting to fold his arms across his chest. A door closes behind you, and you turn to see Alice. She's wearing a tailored green tunic and matching shoulder cape. Wow. What? She asks, catching Ioko's eye. Is the cape too much? He shrugs. Just happy one of us could find something that fits properly. What do you mean by that, you say? Wait. Hold on. Wait, really? What do you mean by that, Ioko? Hold on. I'll have you know. that I am wearing the finest black attire, okay? Fuck you. You say, suddenly self-conscious of your choice. Come on, he replies. Her illustrious imperial, what was it? The mayor is waiting on us. Aelwyn bites his lip and looks at the floor. Then, recalling that he's supposed to be guiding you, gestures for you to accompany him. Follow Aelwyn once again. Mayor Blake is directing servants beneath the high ceiling of the manor dining room. She shoos away a young woman holding an incomplete table ornament, then runs a sharp gaze over the three of you. Her mouth a flat line, lips pressed tight. It's an improvement, she says, raising a smile that fails to reach her eyes. Dinner will be served ahead of sundown. You've caught us in quite a state, as you can see. Sybil waves an elegant hand over the vast oak dining table, laid out with polished cutlery. Arranged to your eyes is in apparent perfection. Hideous, she adds, her hand gliding back to her forehead. I can barely look at it. Another servant appears at the mayor's side, this time clutching a pair of decorative textiles. Sybil sighs, resting against the table in mock exhaustion. Aelwyn, darling, I simply must see to this. Take our guest to the garden or perhaps the library. Return when you hear the bell. The young man ushers you back out the room. Alice has her hands clasped tightly together. Jack the Ripper, I need to see that library. The sanctuary archives are just endless lists of abbot and inventories for candles. I need books. Real books. One for the library, you say. Ayako, any preferences? My preference would be eating dinner, he grumbles. Failing that, some fresh air. Same. You don't have to stay as a group, Aelwyn says, studiously examining the door. If you have different intentions, that is. Alice makes a small noise of joy. Well, if she... garden sounds nice, too. I'll ask Aelwyn. What's your recommendation, Aelwyn? Aelwyn looks up, catching your eye for a second. I don't know. People don't usually ask me what I think. His brow crinkles in concentration. If it were up to me, Yes, I believe I know what you should see. He mumbles some directions to Ayako, then escorts you and Alice to the library. Oh. Step into the library. I wonder what he did. The room is more compact than you expect, with sets of simple shelving from floor to the low ceiling. A round stained glass window on the wall opposite the entrance cast warm outlines of blue and white across some of the book spines. Alice wastes no time in running her fingers along several volumes, searching for titles of interest. You watch Aelwyn position himself in front of a section of shelving covered by a sheet of glass. What? Estuaries and Rivers of the Realm, Cragsgree, Memoirs of the Mountaineer, Nightly Knaves and Fiendish Caves. Alice shakes her head and starts to work her way down the next shelf. You step over to where Aelwyn is standing, curious to see what is being held in the bookcase behind him. As you try to peer around, he seems to slouch a little more to block your view. What's in here? You ask. He says. Oh, nothing much. Boring ledgers, receipts for work on the house. Over your shoulder, you hear Alice gasp. They have an original binding of the Trotula, she says, pointing past Aelwyn's right ear. We need to see the books inside this case. Urgent plague doctor business. The boy looks pained. I'm not supposed... Mother said nobody may touch them. Please, I can't just be satisfied with the others. Can't you just be satisfied with the others? Sorry. We'll be very careful with him. I don't want to get you in any trouble. And if we want to touch him, how exactly wouldn't it feel thrilling? Most interesting bit of the tour, and we're not allowed to see it. Tip. Nah, I don't care about that. All right. We'll be very careful with them. I don't want to get you in any trouble. Next. You're asking about them, so I'm already in trouble, he says with a sad sigh. And now I'm making you upset, too. I'm an awful host. He seems crestfallen. We're not upset, you say. But you seem troubled by all this. Is there anything we can do to help? Aylwin dabs a fancy cuff at his eye. Nobody's ever asked me that, he sniffs. It's all responsibility, duty, teaching me my role as heir. I hate it. He stops for a moment, thinking. But you seem kind. He glances around and slips you a tiny key. Please, don't take too long. Being late for dinner will really fire her temper. The key clicks in the case, allowing you to swing the glass panel outward on a pair of sturdy hinges. Alice reaches for the trotula, removing it with care. Despite the choice of storage, a layer of dust has managed to infiltrate and coat every one of these texts. What? How? You fight back a sneeze as Alice opens the cover by your side. The lost chapter on conception, she whispers, apparently to herself. You examine your options inside the bookcase. In such clandestine circumstances, you'll not be able to read as much as you desire. While considering your choices, you notice that several of the spines have light finger marks on their dusty exteriors. If they were important enough for somebody else to refer to, perhaps they'll be of use to you too? Mindful that you'll have to settle for just one, you peer at their titles. What do we have here? Deity Custom. A comprehensive compendium by Jennifer Clark might be helpful. Industrial Growth in Thornback Hollow. Volume 1 could provide clues into the town's past. That would be very useful. I think on Disease and Infection by Muhammad al-Razi looks useful. A whisper of rustled parchment draws my eye back to Deity Custom. What? A whisper of rustled parchment draws my eye back to Deity Custom. So there's parchment inside of this book right here. These both seem very useful. I think this would probably be more useful. Since it's just industrial growth for the history, I don't think it could be too important with disease. So I guess I'll go look at this. Achievement. Return after reading. Learn something of value in the mayor's library. Ooh. A gentle vibration seems to emanate from one of the texts, calling to you. Almost without thinking, you reach for the copy of Deity Custom, a comprehensive compendium. It's difficult to tell how old this book is, but the ease with which its pages threaten to crumble and tear beneath your fingertips suggest it was written well before your birth. Damn. You advance with delicate care through a few passages, having a good chuckle at some of the more outlandish customs that are no longer in style. Did the people of Musselderry really try to appease a giant, invisible badger by daubing their faces in black and white stripes for the entire season of spring? It scarcely seems credible. Mindful not to risk damaging this text any further, you resolve to cease your research as soon as you find what Deity Custom has to say about Thornback Hollow's Sage of Oak. Yet, try as you might, you cannot locate an entry by that name. There is, however, a passage about the town itself. Deity customs in this small community is based around the belief that the power of dreams can be transferred to an eternity, known as the Lurker in Twilight. or dweller beyond sleep. In return, this entity is said to protect and nurture the surrounding lands. I have witnessed devoted worshippers exerting themselves to exhaustion, then consuming quantities of an herbal concoction that they claim allows them to more readily commune with their deities during slumber. Certain worshippers will ritualistically burn clumps of sage and inhale the smoke, in an effort to enhance their communion. This section refers to their deity as the dweller in sage. Oh. Alice, you say, urging over. Alice! She looks up from her copy of the Trotula. This had better be important, Jack the Ripper. You pointed out the passage you just read. Wait, she says. Is this implying that the Sage of Oak and the Dweller in Thorns may share the same lineage of worship? Yes. With a sound like a tiny blacksmith's hammer striking an even smaller anvil, the peal of the dinner bell reverberates around the room. Aelin rushes back in from the hallway, curtailing any further reading as he urges you to restore the books to their position in the glass display. Hurry! We must leave, he says as you try to return the text without damaging the fragile binding. Once the books are safely back in place, Aelwyn snatches the key, turns the lock, and shoos you out of the room. Go, go! You're going to be late. You're going to get us in trouble if you don't. Dinner is served. The dine on cuts of boiled rabbit, browned in its own grease and splashed with ale. A straightforward meal in ordinary times, but a gluttonous bounty in comparison with the scarcity in the town below. Mayor Blake, seated at the head of the great oak table, makes apologetic excuses for the meal between mouthfuls of fennel and minced onion. This peasant fare, she says, shaking her head with enough vigor to make the jeweled webbing out of her hair jingle. I am mortified by these shortages. To make up for the food falling short on her standards, Sybil has ensured the room has aristocratic finesse in abundance. Elegant silverware and gold-rimmed platters dazzle with tacit extravagance. Tacit? I don't know how to pronounce that. An intricate floral centerpiece draws the eye, spilling out of a vase, patterned with delicate brushstrokes. Every wall has been redressed by the servants, decorated with tapestries, textiles, and portraits, none of which were present when you stood in the room earlier in the day. Mouths closed, darling, Sybil says. An heir does not display his chewed food to an audience. Remember your lessons. Aelwyn, seated in the spot opposite his mother, obeys with glum compliance. Now, she says, I trust you doctors will soon have dealt with these dreadful indispositions afflicting the town. You glance around the faces of your colleagues. Mayor Blake, Ioko says through gritted teeth, the walking death is not an indisposition. Thornback Hollow is being devoured by this plague. Perhaps the abundance of food in this quarter has caused you to underestimate how desperate. Yes, Sybil replies with a terse wave of her hand. And all such things will be healed just as soon as you three start doing your jobs. When will you anticipate that will be exactly? Alco simmers with vexation. Alice looks stunned. What? Why is there a hidden crest in your Oh, well, but I could. If I went to the garden, I would have had this. Frick! Oh well. First, let's discuss the supplies requisitioned by the militia. Before we get to that, I want to know about your book collection. Ooh. Maybe. Before we get to that, I want to know more about your book collection. Next. Sybil? Oh. Your reputation is at stake. Yet you wish to discuss literature, Sybil says. Very well, ask your questions. The text inside the glass cabinet, you say. They're much older than the rest of the collection. How did you come to possess them? Hmm. I trust you were only looking at these books. They are so delicate. I gave Aylwin very clear instructions. Of course, you reply, holding her gaze. Well, there's no mystery to it. Many objects are worth passing through this town. As mayor, it's my privilege to have first refusal on them. Books, art, furniture. She rotates her hand at the wrist as she lists off items. And we inherit some from the previous. Aylwin is silenced by a withering glance from his mother. He slides down in his chair, as if trying to disappear below the edge of the table. What? The mayor claps her hands together. Well now, she says, since that's accounted for, we can return to the matter at hand. Address the conditions in the town. As my colleagues can attest, the conditions in town are grave, you say. We are not dealing with a simple pox, but with a sickness unlike any we have encountered here. But that is your profession, is it not? Sybil replies. I've done my duty. The diseases are being housed within the sanctuary. I notified the crown when the pestilence revealed itself. In the face of many hardships, I have endured this quarantine. She thrusts a finger in your direction. So if this town falls, my hands are clean. The failure will be yours alone. You consider your next words carefully, mindful that the resources under the mayor's command could still be marshaled to your advantage. I make the case as a physician. I draw on surgical metaphor. I lean on fear. I rely on a persuasive rhetoric to convince her. You consider, mindful that the resources under the mayor's command could still be marshaled to your advantage. I make the case as a physician. I'm gonna go with this. I'm a doctor, after all. I will not profess to know everything about medicine, you say, nor should anybody in our position. We obtain knowledge of sickness, of disease, through painstaking study, sometimes through trial and error, other times through sheer bloody-minded luck. At your side, Alice nods in approval. We cannot guarantee that the walking death can be cured, you continue. However, to stand any chance at all, we must use any resources at our disposal. You, Mayor Blake, hold many of those resources. With your aid, we may stand some chance. Sybil contemplates your words. It seems to me, she says, breaking the silence, that you are admitting defeat. You do not understand this plague, and you cannot cure the population. That's not what... Furthermore, this means I will have to take my own steps to protect my family. Sybil stares at you, defiant. Since you are incapable of keeping us safe, I shall double the militia patrols and ensure that not a single sneezing peasant will so much as set foot in the upper quarter. Your stomach tightens as you realize Sybil intends to abandon the rest of Thornback Hollow to its fate. No matter how hard your colleagues try to plead for reason or how loud your voices are raised, the mayor will not bend to your will. Your decision is made. The room descends into an uneasy silence, save for the sounds of servants gathering up empty spaces. Candles burn low. The last streak of daylight are now a memory. Aylwin, please show our guests back to their rooms, Sybil says. Despite our differences, I insist you all stay the night. The weird faces on your colleagues suggest they will not complain. Aylwin stands and motions for Ayoko and Alice to follow him through the dining room door. You're about to join them when Sybil requests that you stay a moment longer. Oh. She waits for the others to leave the room, then clears her throat. There is another reason I invited you to dine with me this evening. I have something to ask of you. She notes your sour expression. Before you dismiss this out of hand, I will remind you that I have the full support of the Crown. What is your request? You ask. In the course of your investigations, you may uncover certain unflattering rumors about me. I would suggest you disregard these as lies, that's all. She adjusts the sleeves on her gown. Hmm. I won't be part of a cover-up for the ruling class. As a fellow envoy of the crown, I will respect your wishes. The deities will not accept this, and neither will I. If you are willing to take unsavory actions without remorse, you have my support. Hmm. Mayor Blake and I intend to cure the plague. Sybil looks at you, trying to gauge your intent, awaiting further words that do not come. Yes, she says, narrowing her eyes in thought. Very good. Yes. One of the candles burns out, sending a sudden plume of smoke into the air. You stifle a yawn. The morrow approaches, Sybil remarks, noting your exhaustion. You may now take your leave. Aelin has been waiting your departure and meets you in the hallway outside the dining room. He escorts you back to your room. You bid him good night, receiving a meek smile in return. Aw. On the bedside table, you see your plague doctor's mask. The weight of responsibility in those hollow eyes causes your stomach to churn. You look away, mind laden with doubt. There is so much work to be done, so many avenues yet left to pursue. But even as you turn these considerations over in your mind, you feel your body sinking into the bracing sheets of the four-poster bed, slipping without effort or resistance into luxurious sleep. Bask in slumber. Ah, and so ends Chapter 4. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you are enjoying. If you did, with that being said, that is the end of the stream, but I am enjoying this game. I love reading this. It both helps me learn to read and gets me actually fucking talking, which I hardly ever do. But anyway, I guess that's it for today. So, with that being said, later.